There's been a trend over the last few years that I'm no fan of, and that's in this sudden interest in going back and revisiting our favorite classic cartoons from our childhoods and turning them into edgy live-action adaptations. This new Powerpuff series was intended to be a more adult-oriented version of the classic Powerpuff Girls show. Except instead of honoring and respecting the classic cartoon, they massacred it! Powerpuff was set to tell the story of Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup as adults, but this new series is not a continuation of either of the previous two. The basics are there, the professor creates the girls, they have superpowers, so they decide to go out and fight crime and save the day. What could possibly go wrong when you've got the fundamentals down? Turns out the fundamentals may be the only thing they got right or even cared about because everything following it is a massive pile of crap. In this story, the professor decides to capitalize on the girls' popularity by releasing a whole line of merchandise, including a promotional cartoon series. I wonder where they got that from. So how do the girls feel about this cartoon that exists in our world as a beloved classic, but exists in their world having taken their likeness and is based on their lives? They think it's exploiting them and is basically a form of propaganda. So, within this show, the Powerpuff Girls hate the Powerpuff Girls cartoon. This is a decision that I just don't think I'll ever be able to understand. Theoretically, the main audience you're trying to attract by making a live-action Powerpuff Girls series in the first place are the OG Powerpuff Girls fans from back in the day. So why, in the trailer for the new show, would you have the main characters that are based off of that old cartoon crap all over the cartoon? This gives me the same feeling I got after I watched the Velma cartoon trailer when it dropped. It just felt like whoever wrote these shows hate the source material. Compare this to what they did in Batman the Animated Series, where they brought in Adam West to voice the Grey Ghost, which was basically going to be a tribute to his version of Batman that he played. Ironically enough, that was the cartoon Batman showing love to the live-action Batman that came before it. Or you could compare it to the very recent Dragon Ball Daima series that just ended. Daima was specifically written to appeal to people who watched Dragon Ball GT many years ago and potentially had kids of their own now to enjoy this new series with. The attempt to appeal to the old GT fans with this new Daima series was so strong that Toriyama wrote in his own take on Super Saiyan 4. Daima didn't insult the existence of GT, it borrowed from it and repackaged some of its ideas into a brand new story. And from what I've seen, Daima was pretty well received within the Dragon Ball fandom for the most part. Now I do want to say that the idea of a show based on the Powerpuff Girls as adults and tackling more darker themes or just exploring how they feel now that they've grown up is not necessarily a bad idea in and of itself. But when you take the old cartoon that many people still love and think is actually a pretty good show, and you set it in this universe as a show, and have the girls themselves talk about how horrible it is, then I don't know what they think people are going to take away from that. Every time a new live-action adaptation of a classic animated film or cartoon series from TV, it just leaves me scratching my head and wondering who could have watched these animations and thought, this would be much better if it wasn't animated. I just can't imagine watching the Powerpuff Girls and thinking that if this was live action instead, it would be an improvement. It's like some of these showrunners see a cartoon and they can't even fathom that one of the things that appeals to people the most about it is that it's animated. Do you think Bluey would have been as successful as it was if all of the characters just looked like plain old ordinary dogs? That's why one of my favorite movies of all time, and what I consider to be one of the best movies ever made, is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That movie took cartoon characters and put them in live-action settings and made it work. They respected the characters. They made them feel real on a set where they physically did not exist. But with this, it feels like they're making fun of the cartoon and the people who maybe still like watching it today. I mean, sure, they got Tom Kenny to narrate this trailer because he was the narrator in the original series, so there's that. But how are you supposed to feel excited about this adaptation of the cartoon when Buttercup outright says that the cartoon whitewashed her? Like I said, I think this concept can work, but I don't think this is the proper execution for it. Now, I don't know how much of this show was actually completed before they ultimately canceled it, and part of me does feel bad that everyone who was involved with it won't get to share their work. Because no matter how much this thing would have sucked, it still just seems unfair that all of the effort that went into making it is gonna go just locked away in a vault never to be seen. But what do you guys think? How do you feel about live-action Powerpuff Girls? Did any of you actually like this trailer? Do you think the series may have worked out alright in the end? Thanks for watching this video, I really appreciate it. If you want to support my channel, then subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Now, here's what Goku looked like in the live-action Dragon Ball movie. I rest my case.